Piers Morgan is just not having a good week. Not having a good week. Because you see, aside from the back and forth between him and Professor Morandi and Mehdi Hassan, and apparently now George Galloway, Dr. Umar dropped a bombshell. And I don't know if a lot of people have seen this video. A viewer sent it to me and I said, oh, we got to talk about this. Dr. Umar, who is Pan-Africanist and very pro-Africa. Like, I don't agree with Dr. Umar on everything, but I agree with him on this conversation, though. Dr. Umar drops a bombshell about Piers Morgan and that show. Let's get into this. This is good, fam.
And there's a lot of strong black men in the space, but you will not fold.
No.
And bro, trust me, us other black men, we say, if they let Umar on CNN, if they let him on MA, he's not folding.
Oh, no, sir.
So don't send the invite.
And that's why they ain't going to send me. You'll never see me on there. Now, I just got an invitation to be on Piers Morgan.
We about to talk about him in just a second.
And I didn't accept it because I noticed with some of them, even though he's really popular and he got millions, don't bring me on there for no nonsense. Yes. And what I noticed, and I went through this a little bit with Fox Soul. No disrespect to Fox Soul because they just reached back out to me. I'm going to give them another chance. But you don't take somebody with these kind of credentials and this type of following and this seriousness behind his work and put him on a panel with goofballs
at all.
And you see,
at all.
That's what.
Oh, so this was shocking. I didn't know about that. According to Dr. Umar, he said Piers Morgan show reached out to him and he rejected the invitation. Ooh, burn. Damn. And the reason being is because, to his point, he doesn't feel that it's going to be a productive conversation. And he doesn't want to be put on a platform with a bunch of people that are just going to be goofy about whatever he's going to talk about. I'm assuming with Dr. Umar would probably be racial conversation. He doesn't want to be put on a panel with a bunch of, goofballs just for the views and the promotion and all that type of stuff, just to give Piers Morgan more viewership. Like, he's not going to go through that. He rejected it. But wait, there's more.
Piers Morgan, I got an invite for a white podcast. I'm not going to mention his name. He's very popular. Mm-hmm. He wanted me to debate Jesse Lee Peterson, right? Now, me and Jesse Lee Peterson, are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I know Jesse.
We've debated before. I was on his show before. He was on Fox Soul before.
Okay.
He and I have shared airways maybe 3 times, right?
Okay.
I turned down the interview, right? Because I said, I am not going to go on this show. And this was live in studio. And I think he's in Florida too. I am not going to go on this show and debate another black man, even though he is a coon, for the entertainment of white people.
Right.
See, when he first reached out, Loon, I'm thinking we're going to have a conversation like us. We're going to go around the world and talk. No, I want you to debate Jesse Lee Peterson. You already know what he stands for.
Right.
You already know what I stand for. So this cannot be serious.
Yeah.
You guys have got to be careful about this too. There are podcasters that do this, right? Like, they will actively try to pit black podcaster or black, I don't know if we would call Dr. Umar a podcaster, but he's on a lot of podcasts. They'll try to pit 2 black people against each other. I've seen people try to do that to me, like behind the scenes, like, oh, you should da-da-da-da, and you should da blah 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 blah. I'm like, why is it always you try to pit me against another black person? This is where, like, you got to be careful about that, because it does happen, especially within like the YouTube space or whatever. So it's kind of like it takes you back to what's funny and what's not funny, right? What's for entertainment and what's not for entertainment. And it reminds me of something that Dave Chappelle talked about, when he had the Chappelle show, which was funny as hell. I don't think you could do the Chappelle show today because people get too angry real quick, But Dave Chappelle said something after he walked away from the Chappelle show, and he said that he realized with some of the jokes, people were laughing a little too hard. And if you watch Chappelle show, you guys probably know which ones I'm talking about. You probably know which skits I'm talking about, right? So you got to be very careful that people don't do this to you. And I'm saying that to any of you who are thinking about like starting your own show or anything like that. Be very careful about that, because it's something people like to do. They really do like to pit two Black people against each other. It's like when Brianna Joy Gray went on to Candace's podcast after Bree was fired from The Hill. People were wanting to see a drag out fight. Like I saw some of the comments and people online, they wanted them to like drag out fight each other. And that's not how the conversation went. And so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you got to be careful. And it's a fine line, because at the same time, what they'll do is they'll want to put you against someone who's obviously the exact opposite of you, but both of you are Black, because they want you two to go at it. At the same time, it's tough when you're in that seat, because you want to defend your principles and where you stand, but you got to do so in a way that you also aren't buying into this entertainment of Black person tearing other Black person down. And even in doing that, you got to be careful, because then other people could say, oh, you're being too soft. You didn't go hard enough against that person. You know what I mean? So it's hard to find that line. I think he did the right thing by saying no.
You want us to fight each other for the entertainment of Caucasians. I'm not doing that.
And I appreciate you for saying that. Matter of fact, let's get to Piers. So Piers Morgan has been in the news or in Black culture going viral right now, in particular for he was on a panel. Let me get the names right. I think it was... I want to make sure I have the young lady's names.
We're just going to fast forward here because I know what he's talking about. We talked about this panel. This is the panel that he's talking about.
Because you openly, proudly admitted you're a racist. So it wasn't a question of exposing you or pointing my finger or trying to get this out of you. You proudly sat there, bold as brass, and said, yeah, I use the N-word all the time against Black people. I'm a racist and I'm proud of it. That's what you did.
Racism is just having a preference. I prefer not to live around Black people. I prefer not to live in a country where white people in our country are disproportionately attacked by Black people. Where in my country, you can have an Austin Metcalf where he asks a guy to leave and he gets stabbed in the heart. I prefer that. That's a preference. Now, what a real racist is, in my opinion, is seeing someone as less human. I'm a Christian. I believe everyone's created in God's image. So I don't see anyone as less human. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to have a preference and say.
So let's fast forward to this part here, because what Piers Morgan asked her to do was he asked her to say the N-word, right? And Mark Lamont Hill was a part of this panel.
Deep-seated structural forms of injustice to white people that white people have done to Black people, and yet to claim some kind of moral superiority in the midst of, and again, in the context of a conversation where a white woman is calling a 5-year-old autistic child the N-word, and we're talking about Black people's bad behavior. This is absurd. And the idea of fighting fire with fire, again, is a dishonest argument. Just to take us back to the point here, the people who are supporting Carmelo Anthony's campaign believe that he was wrongfully charged and they're trying to get him legal defense. The people who are defending this woman are saying, yes, we know you called the 5-year-old autistic Black child the N-word, and we want more of it.
So that's what the conversation was about. It was about Carmelo Anthony. And I want you to hear what he says here.
Okay. Yeah, because they would blur out on certain platforms. They wouldn't let it be
only
seen.
Saw a clip, but I'm
right. And so I wanted to ask you, what is your reaction to that clip of that situation?
That is the exact type of situation that I don't want to be a part of. I don't mind the racism, but let it be someone of an established intellectual background.
Right.
But for you to just grab idiots and buffoons off social media because they have an opinion and ask me to converse with them, I feel like you're belittling my work.
Yes.
And you're belittling mine.
And that's what it was. The young lady was just a social media girl who says, I like to say
and no expertise in anything, no community activism, no type of corporation that she's established, you know, no type of political resume, just a nobody. My thing is, at least let it be someone who people listen to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And listen to for serious opinion, right, not just shock value.
And that's what they'll do. They'll try to mix our greats with they bullshit and trash.
Yes, I'm not doing that. And when he reached out to me, Brother Loon, if memory serves me correctly, it was a week or two before that interview. So I believe he wanted me as a part of that, because in the email that I got from his assistant, it specifically said that they wanted to discuss the fundraising behind our brother down in Texas, right? The young brother who defended his life, okay, and is now facing charges, and hopefully he will be victorious. We're going to pray.
Carmelo, right?
Carmelo
Yes.
Anthony.
So it sounds like they were trying to get Dr. Umar on that panel with Myron Gaines, anti-Black Myron Gaines. Could you imagine what that would have been like? So I have to say, you know, kudos to Dr. Umar for saying, no, I'm not going to go participate and be a part of that. That's okay. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to, it's okay to do that. And, you know, so Mark Lamont Hill was on that panel and he was greatly disrespected. We covered that before on the show. And it's just one of those things. It's like, sometimes it's okay to say no. And it's not even about like, oh, let me go on there and get the publicity or da-da-da, whatever. Sometimes it's about knowing what you're walking into, right? And you may not know who's going to be on that panel, but sometimes these shows try to set you up for a trap. That's the point that I'm trying to get across. So again, I don't agree with Dr. Umar on some of his craziness because he do say some crazy stuff, but I agree with him in this position here.
They wanted to discuss the fundraising between Carmelo Anthony and the Shiloh Hendricks, I believe is her name.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this request and I'm saying, of all the things we can discuss, we want to talk about GoFundMe. I already knew it was nonsense.
Right.
This is all you want to discuss with
Right.
Dr. Umar.
Yeah.
This fundraiser and this fundraiser.
Right.
I said, this is nonsense. I believe he wanted me on that platform.
Did you see Mark Lamont Hill's response to it where
I thought he did a good job.
Okay,
I
now
thought he did a good job.
he's receiving some backlash because he. This is what I say. This difference between
what did he say, and then
and then
because I didn't see the whole thing.
This is what he said. So he says, Piers Morgan invites the young lady to say the N-word. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say
Did
it.
she say it?
No. Mark Lamont jumps in.
Okay.
I do not want you to tell her to say the N-word in front of me because I'm the only one up here that's going to be offended. Da 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 da. He was on the right track. Then he uttered, Piers, I know you don't mean any harm. And then that's when a lot of people were taken back because why would you give him any out in that moment? He clearly is inviting this discourse. Why is he, as the white man who's facilitating the conversation? And also, even if he was there quiet, I would say he holds some responsibility
because he engineered the conversation.
But the fact that he was the one to say, go ahead, say it. And then for you to let him off the hook. Yeah, for you to let him off the hook. Now, Mark Lamont Hill responds to this and says, I only done that because I didn't want them to cut out the part where I where I told him, do not allow her to say that. So it's like a strategic bag down. I don't respect those. Right?
Okay.
Like in that setting. Now, if we're talking war and, you know, other settings, great. But he received some backlash for basically letting Piers Morgan off the hook in that moment. To that, what do you say?
Okay.
So this is the response here, right? So I think that, again, Dr. Umar, he did not accept the invitation to come on Piers Morgan's show. And but honestly, looking back at it, maybe if he was in that seat, things would have been very, very different. I don't know, but we'll let him finish up here.
I don't want to speak on that directly because I didn't see it. I'm going to give Dr. Mark Lamont Hill the benefit of the doubt. Okay.
Do you want to see it? Because we can show you the clip.
I don't mind. I can take a look at it.
Let's take a look at it.
You know, it could have just been human error. I'm hoping, you know, if that's the only thing that took place, it could have just been human error. I'm hoping it wasn't as egregious as what I saw the other day when President Donald Trump had a meet and greet interview with the president of South Africa. I don't know if you caught that, but I was very disappointed in the way that President Ramaphosa of South Africa conducted himself with President Trump. I really feel that he allowed President Trump to drive the conversation.
I did see him meet. I didn't get the chance to watch.
You got to watch it. I felt like he completely disrespected the South African people who I love. I'm very close with the South African family. And I felt the president of South Africa did not assert the dignity of his people by defending why so many South Africans are considering appropriating land from these Caucasians, because y'all invaded our country centuries ago, stole that land, enslaved us on our own territory. And now you have the audacity, President Trump, to call me a criminal to take back what was stolen from me by white criminals.
And that is why you don't see Dr. Umar on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, any of these others, because he's going to go to that level and tell people like, no, this isn't right. Like, and let me explain why. But I thought you guys would find that interesting, like that he was invited on to Piers Morgan and he said no, because he didn't want to go on there and participate in what he calls foolishness. So sometimes it's okay to say no and not participate in these things. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.